They called them the Ghost Army, and their deadliest weapon wasn't a bullet, but a whisper, a shadow, a phantom. In the brutal, unforgiving landscape of World War II, where every inch of ground was paid for in blood, a secret unit of American soldiers waged a war unlike any other. A war of pure illusion, designed to trick Hitler's most cunning generals. Imagine, if you can, standing on the edge of a battlefield, the air thick with the scent of fear and gunpowder, and your mission isn't to fight, but to pretend. To conjure an entire army out of thin air, to fool the enemy into believing a force of 30,000 men was massing right under their noses, when in reality it was nothing more than rubber, sound, and a carefully crafted lie. This wasn't just a tactic. It was a desperate gamble, a psychological masterpiece that would save thousands of lives, yet remain shrouded in secrecy for decades. It's a story of audacious creativity, unimaginable pressure, and the quiet heroism of those who fought not with guns, but with guile, shaping the very perception of reality on the battlefield. But before we unravel this astonishing deception, do me a favor, hit that like button, and who knows, maybe you'll dodge the draft in your next life. Just kidding, mostly. Now, back to the shadows. It was the summer of 1944. D-Day had ripped open Fortress Europe, and the Allied forces were pushing eastward, clawing their way through France, a relentless, grinding advance that tested the endurance of every soldier. Every hedgerow, every village, every river crossing was a potential death trap, a place where the tide of war could turn in an instant, where a single strategic miscalculation could cost entire divisions. The Germans, though reeling from the Normandy landings and facing a two-front war, were still a formidable, disciplined foe. Their intelligence network vast, their defenses tenacious, and their commanders masters of defensive warfare. The landscape itself became a character in this brutal drama, a labyrinth of obstacles and hidden dangers, amplifying the need for innovative solutions beyond brute force. General Eisenhower, the supreme Allied commander, understood the immense human cost of each advance. He knew that conventional tactics, while necessary, were bleeding his forces dry, pushing them to their limits against a desperate enemy. He needed an edge, something to disrupt the enemy's calculations, to sow confusion and divert their precious resources, to make them commit their reserves to phantom threats. He needed to make them see what wasn't there and ignore what was, to create a strategic mirage that would buy precious time and save invaluable lives. The stage was set for one of the most bizarre and brilliant military operations in history, born out of a desperate need to outwit an enemy obsessed with strategic precision and to break the deadlock of attrition warfare. This wasn't just about winning battles. It was about winning smarter, with less bloodshed. Enter the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, a unit so unique, so unconventional, that its very existence bordered on the surreal, a testament to the desperate ingenuity of wartime. This wasn't your typical infantry division, forged in the crucible of combat. Its ranks were filled not with hardened combat veterans, but with an eclectic mix of artists, designers, sound engineers, radio operators, and even fashion illustrators, many plucked from the vibrant creative scenes of New York and Los Angeles. These were individuals whose talents were usually reserved for the silver screen, the advertising agencies of Madison Avenue, or the hallowed halls of art schools, now repurposed for the deadliest show on Earth. Their backgrounds ranged from Broadway set designers to abstract painters, from radio personalities to architects, each bringing a unique perspective to the art of deception. Their training was as unusual as their recruits, a crash course in the art of illusion. They learned how to inflate a rubber tank in minutes, transforming a deflated canvas shell into a menacing war machine with just a few pumps of air. They mastered the subtle art of mimicking the distinct engine sounds of a convoy of heavy trucks or the rumble of a tank battalion, using massive sound trucks and cleverly recorded audio. They practiced generating fake radio chatter that sounded utterly authentic to German eavesdroppers, weaving a tapestry of false communications across the airwaves, complete with the unique fists or sending styles of real unit operators. They were actors on a grand, deadly stage, their props made of rubber and canvas, their scripts written by military strategists, and their audience the entire German high command, whose every move depended on accurate intelligence. Their mission was simple in concept, terrifying in execution. Impersonate larger Allied units, drawing enemy attention and resources away from where the real attacks were planned. Their arsenal included hundreds of inflatable tanks, jeeps, trucks, and artillery pieces, giant balloons that, from a distance or aerial reconnaissance, looked eerily real, complete with painted details and shadows. These weren't just static props. They were deployed with meticulous care, positioned to suggest active movement and strategic intent. They carried massive sound trucks, equipped with powerful amplifiers and recordings of troop movements, bridge building, and even soldiers shouting orders, all designed to create an auditory illusion of a bustling military encampment, a symphony of ghost sounds echoing across the landscape. Beyond the physical and auditory deceptions, the Ghost Army also employed visual deception, where soldiers would impersonate high-ranking officers, driving around in jeeps with fake insignia, making themselves deliberately visible to German reconnaissance planes or local spies. They would wear the patches of the units they were impersonating, engage in seemingly casual conversations in public places, and even hang out in local cafes, dropping subtle hints and rumors about their units' impending movements. This level of detail, from the grand scale of inflatable armies to the intimate whispers of false intelligence, showcased the comprehensive nature of their psychological warfare. It was a symphony of deception played out on the front lines, where a single misstep, a forgotten prop, or an unconvincing gesture could expose their charade and lead to catastrophic consequences for themselves and the real troops they were protecting. The tension was constant, a silent hum beneath the orchestrated chaos, a perpetual tightrope walk between success and catastrophic failure. Imagine setting up a fake tank battalion just miles from enemy lines, knowing that a German patrol could stumble upon your rubber armada at any moment, revealing the entire elaborate ruse. Or broadcasting convincing radio chatter, aware that enemy intelligence officers were listening intently, trying to discern truth from fiction, searching for any anomaly in the carefully constructed narrative. The Ghost Army operated in the deepest shadows, often just behind the actual front lines, their illusions designed to be seen but never touched, their effectiveness hinging on the enemy's inability to get close enough to discover the truth. They would arrive at a location under the cloak of darkness, inflate their phantom army with practiced efficiency, play their meticulously crafted soundscapes, and then, as silently as they arrived, vanish into the night, leaving behind nothing but empty fields and the lingering echoes of a non-existent force. Their work was a ballet of precision and timing, a constant dance with discovery, where every creak of a rubber tank, every slightly off-key radio transmission, every misplaced footprint could unravel their elaborate ruse and expose them to the enemy's wrath. The psychological burden on these soldiers was immense. They were constantly aware that their lives, and the lives of thousands of others, depended on the convincingness of their performance, on their ability to truly embody the ghost. One of their most critical operations came in March 1945, as the Allies prepared for Operation Plunder, the monumental crossing of the Rhine River into the heart of Germany. This was a strategic imperative, a final push that would require immense concentration of forces, a daring amphibious assault across one of Europe's most formidable natural barriers. The Germans knew such a crossing was inevitable, but not exactly where or when. The Ghost Army was tasked with creating a massive diversion, a grand illusion designed to convince the Germans that 2 full US divisions, totaling over 30,000 men, were preparing to cross the Rhine near the town of Wesel, miles north of the actual crossing points. This was their most ambitious deception yet, a test of everything they had learned. For days leading up to the real crossing, the artists and engineers of the 23rd worked tirelessly, often under the constant threat of enemy fire and reconnaissance. They inflated hundreds of rubber vehicles, creating entire motor pools and tank parks that stretched for miles. They set up dummy artillery positions, complete with camouflaged guns made of logs and canvas, and even simulated the construction of pontoon bridges. A torrent of fake radio traffic, mimicking the specific call signs and operational chatter of the real units they were impersonating, flooded the airwaves. They even had actors impersonating generals, driving around in jeeps, making themselves deliberately visible to German reconnaissance planes and local spies, reinforcing the illusion of a massive buildup. The stakes were astronomically high. If the deception failed, thousands of American and British lives would be lost in the real crossing, turning a strategic victory into a bloody disaster. The climax arrived on the night of March 23rd. As the real Allied forces, under the cover of darkness and a carefully planned artillery barrage, began their perilous crossing further south, the Ghost Army maintained its elaborate charade near Wesel. The air was thick with tension, the distant rumble of real artillery fire serving as a terrifying counterpoint to their orchestrated sounds. German artillery pounded their fake positions, shells exploding harmlessly around the inflatable tanks and dummy encampments. German reconnaissance planes buzzed overhead, their cameras meticulously photographing the phantom army, providing proof to the German high command of the impending attack. The sounds of heavy machinery, the shouts of non-existent soldiers, the constant hum of radio traffic, all conspired to paint a picture of an imminent, massive assault, a force poised to strike. The German high command, completely fooled by the sheer scale and convincing detail of the deception, diverted their precious panzer divisions and infantry units north, away from the true crossing points. It was a terrifying, exhilarating moment for the Ghost Army soldiers, huddled in their foxholes, knowing that their performance, their meticulously crafted lie, was directly influencing the outcome of a major battle, that their rubber tanks were saving real lives. They watched the German shells fall, not on them, but on their inflatable counterparts, a chilling testament to the success of their grand illusion, a silent cheer for every life spared by their strategic masterpiece. When the real crossing succeeded with far fewer casualties than anticipated, thanks in large part to the German diversion, the Ghost Army knew their mission had been a resounding triumph. They continued their deceptions throughout the final push into Germany, always operating in the shadows, always creating phantom armies where none existed, their silent war of wits continuing until the very last days of the conflict. Their unique contributions, however, were deemed too sensitive for public knowledge. The story of the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops was immediately classified as top secret, locked away behind a veil of national security that would last for decades. The soldiers of the Ghost Army returned home, their extraordinary contributions to the war effort locked away behind a wall of silence. They couldn't tell their families, their friends, or even their fellow veterans about the bizarre, brilliant war they had fought, the unique role they played in saving countless lives. For decades they carried their secret, the weight of their untold heroism, a silent burden that set them apart from other veterans. It wasn't until 1996, more than 50 years after the war ended, that their story was finally declassified, revealing the incredible tale of the artists and engineers who helped win a war with imagination, a testament to the power of unconventional thinking in the face of overwhelming odds. Their legacy is a powerful reminder that war is fought on many fronts, not just with bullets and bombs, but with ingenuity, wit, and the sheer audacity of the human spirit. The Ghost Army proved that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in overwhelming force, but in the power of illusion, in the ability to make the enemy see what isn't there, and to protect those who are. They were the silent saviors, the unsung heroes who painted victory with shadows and sound, leaving behind a haunting question. How many other untold stories of courage and brilliance lie hidden in the annals of history, waiting for their moment in the light, waiting to remind us that the human mind, in its boundless creativity, can be the most potent weapon of all?